Hey there, welcome back. You know, I see all the time posts, hey, I'm a new player, I'm looking for tips, what can I do? So it made me think, I'll do my own new player tips and tricks. I see a lot of videos that all say kind of the same stuff, and a lot of them are like the trivia tips. Stuff like you can bash open doors, and if the butcher is at Windy Run, the pig's head will be out on the front gate. And those are fine and all, but I really don't think that they're very helpful for all the new players. So instead, here's my list of tips and tricks for new players, which are largely combat related. And I'm going to go kind of equipment, your role, and then some gunfight tips. Here's 20 Hunt Showdown tips. Alright, tip number 1, and take this with a grain of salt, I'm sure plenty of people will argue with me, but instead of taking things like the Winfield, which have a high rate of fire and a large ammo pool, I think, and I recommend to new players, that you should instead take single-shot rifles, such as the Springfield Martini Sparks, and you should take revolvers, Caldwell Conversion, Pax, Uppercut. The Winnie is no doubt strong, but I feel that when you're new, the single-shot guns promote good habits, such as getting back into cover between shots, whereas the Winfield, levering, fanning, stuff like that, promote bad habits, like standing out in the open and trying to do follow-up shots when you didn't hit the first one. And that's what you're going to see right here. Since each one of my shots has to count, I take the extra second to actually aim them, versus the other guys that are just kind of going to spam at me and rely on the rate of fire of their weapon, and ultimately it's not going to do them any favors. And you'll see at the end of this clip here, this guy's just going to panic and start levering, which ultimately gets him killed.
Beautiful.
Alright, tip number 2, which goes hand in hand with the first one, do not take grenades and throwables. Like spammy weapons, I feel like they promote bad habits, especially when you lack the awareness of some of the more experienced players, and you'll have a tendency to want to throw things instead of just shooting them. Now, throwables are undoubtedly powerful. I have no argument against that. So that brings me to number 3. If you are going to bring throwables, make sure that you're only throwing them when you are completely safe from reprisal from the other person, i.e. inside or outside of a window they can't currently shoot through, other side of a mound, stuff like that. And certainly not when the other person is close enough that they can get to you, i.e. if they could run you down with a knife, do not pull a fuse. And that's going to run me right into tip number 4. If somebody does pull a fuse, often your best answer is to just charge them with melee. Most people are not intending to pull that grenade and throw it at their own feet, and they're very vulnerable while it's in their hand.
Fuck this guy.
One more equipment-based tip. Take a silenced weapon, even just a silenced secondary like the Nagant silencer. As you run through the map, go ahead and shoot every zombie that you come across. This will kind of help you keep your aim warmed up and help you practice a little bit. You can think of your aim sort of like APM if you're familiar with StarCraft. It's very hard to go from 0 to 250. Your aim works kind of the same way. If you spend 20 minutes running around the map, not aiming at anything, not shooting, just collecting clues, all of a sudden you find yourself in a gunfight, it's very difficult to go from not shooting to shooting. But if you've been shooting the entire map, it might make the difference between you head-clicking a guy or you getting head-clicked. But while you're running around shooting everything, I want you to remember this. Silently killing things is not silent. The silenced guns, killing things with your knives, etc., these all make noise. And these are noises that especially experienced players are going to pick up on. The individual death sounds of the monsters, very recognizable. The explosion of lanterns, all of that makes noise. Down to even the individual silent guns can be determined just by hearing the sound of their silent shot. I can tell which silenced gun you're shooting by the sound of it. That's how not silent they are. If you truly want to be quiet and sneak through the map, you're better off not interacting with anything at all. Alright, this one might be the single most important tip I have for anybody who's new. Try to do stuff. To run through the match as if you're the carry. as if you're not new, as if you're not less skilled. I want you to go out and try to find the bounties, find the boss, kill the boss. Do not follow your teammates around like a little lost puppy. Not only is that ineffective, but it's actually super annoying. And it'll likely get them and you killed. You're drawing more attention to one spot. But furthermore, I want you to try to be the one to do things, because that's the way that you're ultimately going to get better at doing the things, and you're going to get to the point where you are the carry, and you are the one who's going around clutching matches and wiping teams and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying run off while you're by yourself and be out in the middle of nowhere and get killed. I'm just saying take initiative to do things other than nip at the coat heels of whoever you're playing with, which is a super bad habit that I see from lots and lots of new players. Number 8, I want you to scout ahead. While you're out there taking the initiative and doing things, as you run from clue to clue, start looking towards the next compound. When you spawn, start looking at the other spawns. If your team's fighting the boss, start looking at where people might be coming from. Since you're out front, this will let you potentially find people, and getting an early hop on somebody is one of the biggest advantages you can get on them. If you can see somebody coming into you before they realize it, you can start the fight off great, maybe even just down one right out the gate. And an uneven fight is exactly the kind of fight you want to be in.
I'm reloading.
One dead.
Nice.
Alright, next up. Let's say you do get an early pick on somebody, or not even in a scouted situation, you're just in a team fight. Once somebody on the enemy team goes down, the odds are immediately swung in your favor. You want to be the one that outnumbers the other person. It's very hard to fight when outnumbered. So that being said, tip number 9 is once you get a pick on somebody one way or the other, I want you to push the advantage. Often, when I play with newer players, I'll see what happens is we get a pick on somebody and they want to just sit back like they've already won the fight. That's your opportunity to push forward and really pressure the other guys. Now, I'm not saying run out into totally unsafe positions to do so, but once you can get somebody, especially if they're the last guy, if all 3 of you push him, he's not going to headshot all 3 of you before you down him. So get your whole team going after him. Go opposite sides of whatever mound he's behind. Surround him. Start shooting at him from 2 different sides. This is one of the easiest kills you're going to get. Distract him a little bit with your fire if your teammates are slow. Don't take this opportunity to go find something else to do. Finish the fight. Maybe don't even heal right now, because if you sit down to heal and then your teammate pushes him, that gives him the opportunity to take you all one after another after another. When you work together at the same time is when any given team will be the strongest. Whenever your friend needs help, make sure you get to him. Push at the same time. Now, the flip side of that, for the same reason that 2 of you pushing one guy from 2 sides is so strong, you want to make sure that you do not get pushed from 2 sides. Make sure to always be working on positioning yourself so that you are not caught between 2 teams or 2 different people of the same team. If you do find yourself in the middle of a crossfire, you want to reposition yourself out and around so that you can get on one side and shove them all into each other. You want to fight on one front. Additionally, you want to focus fire on one target. And whatever you do throughout all of this, don't be timid. If you come up with an idea, because I do want you to come up with ideas and try stuff, I want you to commit to it. Check out this combat res right here.
Nice.
Combat reses like this are super powerful, and there's a lot of stuff that you can get done, but you have a very narrow window of time to do it in. Be it a combat res, a heal, picking up the bounty, setting a trap, any of that stuff. You have to commit to the idea, and you have to do it basically as soon as you can. If you don't, you end up with something that looks a little bit more like this. Let's check out a clip where we drive in between 2 teams, don't focus on one, and then spend too much time trying to go for combat reses.
That's all of them.
Now this res would actually ultimately work, and it would turn the fight back into a 3v3 if it had been done 30 seconds earlier. But by trying to dodge that hive bomb and letting that team come out of the boss compound, they're in position to deal with us as soon as we try to res.
God damn it.
Now, for the last tip in this grouping, I want you to try to clutch every time. If you find yourself being the last member of the team, and you're on the newer side, or maybe you're less good, or your friends are better than you, whichever it be, I still want you to try. And don't sneak around for a long time to try to do it. I'm not saying being reckless, but I want you to try to clutch the match. Yeah, it's going to go wrong sometimes, and sometimes you're going to die, but that's fine. By trying to clutch the match, this is how you're going to improve, and this is how you're going to get to the point where you do consistently clutch these matches. I think that hiding and trying to come back later for a res or something like that are really doing yourself a disservice as far as your ability to play, and more often than not it's not going to work, because in my experience, once a team has one or two of you down, you're not going to wait them out. The most likely thing that's going to happen is they're going to burn your teammate, and then they're going to leave.
I'm being chased by a dude distracted.
So instead of being timid and hoping that things work out for the best, even though they're likely not to, I want you to try to clutch, and this is really going to improve your combat ability.
I've got you back.
Even if it goes wrong a couple of times, who cares? You were pretty much already lost to begin with, so you might as well take this as a definite learning experience. And if anybody gives you any shit for it, don't listen to them. Fuck those guys, they're dead anyways. So, like, right here, I get an opportunity to combat res real quick because they're busy running away from us, even though they kind of have the advantage at this particular moment. Okay, so that covers, I want you to try to clutch everything, which ties back into don't be timid, which ties back into just try to do things. And that's what I said was probably the single most important tip I have for you, and the one single tip that's going to make you improve the most, and you will eventually see the most drastic change in your gameplay. Just go try to do things. So that's going to be the end of my section of kind of your role in the team and how I want you to behave sort of tips. Now we're going to transition into a couple of more gunplay related ones, and some of these should be pretty quick. We're actually going to fast forward a couple of seconds, cut out a little bit of downtime here in this same exact fight so that I can demonstrate the first one. Number 14. Hold angles and let people walk into you instead of always trying to walk out and find them. Hunt Showdown, especially like when compared to other more faster paced shooters like say Apex or something, is very positional, and there's a whole lot that you can compensate for by having good positioning and game sense. I always use the expression more brains than aim. You don't have to have godlike head clicking skills if you hold good positions. You can use this opportunity to think about what you're going to do, listen for their footsteps, try to get a beat on them, stuff like that. And then, that'll take us into our next tip. Peek the left side of things.
That's the slugs?
Go for chest shot. Good shit,
Nice.
The camera is in the upper left side of your character model. So when you peek to the left side, you actually see things a little bit sooner with less of your character model showing. This gives you an advantage whenever you're trying to trade shots with somebody. And now that that guy's down, we've turned it back into a one-on-one. We're able to try to finish this match out, finish this fight, and get the clutch, which I always want you to do.
That's it.
Beautiful, dude.
Good shit, dude. Well played.
Furthermore, if you find yourself in a scenario where you have like 1 second to make a play or you're going to go down, by holding the angle, especially on the left side, and letting them walk into you, you might be able to make that difference. On the topic of where you peek, if you are right next to a crack and they're far away from it, it's much easier for you to see out than them in. So sometimes finding a little bit of a crack could be the difference between you getting the kill or getting killed. And while we're on the topic of peeking, do not keep peeking the same spot over and over if you can help it. Let's say you're caught behind a tree and you're peeking relatively the same area, at least peek both the left and the right side. Now, I know I said that the left side is better, and it is, but if you keep going the left side over and over, they're eventually going to get a beat on you. Try to alternate a little bit, and don't just go left, right. Be a little random about it. And if you can, try to bait out a shot or two. That's your optimum time to peek again. If you can bait a shot before they can shoot again is when you want to peek. And maybe they don't have the good habit of getting right back into cover, like I said earlier in the video. So if you can get somebody to shoot, then you can peek, fire at them. And then you'll see if they keep peeking the same side, eventually you hone in on them, and then you just get them.
Nice shot.
One last thing on the topic of peeking, number 18. If you're going to peek a window, peek it from deep in the room. Don't stand right in the window frame. That makes you super easy to see. You want to stand back a little bit, and then you're much harder to spot, and they might not notice you. And this is doubly so if you have a scope.
Hit him twice.
So I can rotate.
Tip number 19. Aim where you want to be aiming before you get there. If you're about to check a corner, don't walk at a 90 degree, then turn, and then hope you don't get shot. Aim ahead of time, so that if somebody is there, which you might know from listening, you're already facing the direction you need to face to engage them. This is also kind of another way for me to say the concept of slice the pie, which is going to be our final tip. And if you're not familiar with that concept, I'm just going to pull up a Google image here to kind of demonstrate it to you, but it's the way that you should approach looking into a room or an area from a corner.
You want that?
And one little bonus thing, it didn't really fit anywhere else, and I don't have a way to demonstrate this in a clip, but I recommend that everybody rebind their buttons so that jump and vault are on 2 different keys. You can find the options in your controls.
He's dead. Gucci.
Alright, if you made it to the end, thanks for watching another one of my videos. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Once again, all footage was recorded live over here, and everything I do gets posted over here. So if you like anything I do, you found it helpful, let me know. I appreciate it. Leave a comment. I appreciate it. Tell me what I can do better. Tell me if there's anything else you want to see or hear. Let me know if there's a way I can help you out, and it helps me out. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. We'll see you next time. Also, post thought, big thanks to the subreddit. I'm pretty active over there. That's where I see a lot of these things and where I get most of my ideas from, reading people's posts and seeing what they're having trouble with. That's what inspires me to make my tutorials. So, thanks Reddit.